They mocked the janitor until he fired the CEO on live TV. Do you know that feeling when you were standing in the middle of a crowd but feel completely invisible? That is precisely Maya Stone's life at Vanguard Skyline, the most prestigious architectural corporation in Chicago. But don't let that flashy name fool you, because this story doesn't begin in the sun-drenched glass offices on the 50th floor where piping hot espressos are served right to the desk. No, it begins on basement level B2, a place that smells of old paper, cheap printer ink, and the ceaseless hum of a massive ventilation system. A place where people like Maya are viewed by society and the colleagues above as ghosts. Maya is a mailroom clerk. Her daily job is to sort mountains of correspondence, run errands, and ensure the giant printers never run out of paper. But there is a secret that no one at Vanguard Skyline knows, a secret that could shake this building to its core. Maya is a genius architect. She graduated as valedictorian, but her surname, Stone, is a death sentence in this construction industry filled with backroom deals. Her father, an honest engineer, was wrongly imprisoned for a bridge collapse he had warned about but was ignored, leaving her with a sick mother and a massive debt that forced her to bury her college degree at the bottom of a closet to do menial labor simply because it offered health insurance. On a bleak Tuesday afternoon, when most employees had left to avoid the snowstorm rolling in from Lake Michigan, Maya lingered. She didn't stay to work overtime. She stayed because of the bulletin board in the basement hallway where the idea trash can of the architects upstairs was posted. On it was a sketch of the Millennium $200 million tower project, and it had a fatal error. Maya's eyes narrowed as she stared at the load-bearing structure of the glass dome. They had miscalculated the thermal expansion of the steel during Chicago's harsh winter. If built according to this drawing, the tower wouldn't collapse immediately, but with just one major blizzard, the glass would shatter and fall like a rain of daggers. Her fingers itched, her heart pounded in her chest. The professional compulsion was stronger than the fear of being discovered. She looked around. The hallway was deserted, save for the clicking sound of a cart somewhere in the distance. Pulling a red pen from her dull gray uniform pocket, Maya approached the board. With decisive and sharp strokes, she crossed out the miscalculation, rewrote the correct formula next to it, and added a small note. The tilt angle needs to be 35 degrees, not 30, unless you want to kill pedestrians. The sensation of adrenaline rushing down her spine made her shiver, not from the cold, but from the satisfaction of being herself, if only for a few fleeting seconds. A 35-degree angle will increase the cost by another $2 million, a husky voice rang out right behind her, making Maya jump and almost drop the pen. She spun around, her heart feeling like it was about to leap out of her throat. Standing there, leaning against a cart full of cleaning supplies, was Ethan. He was the new janitor, always wearing a cap pulled down to hide half his face, baggy protective gear covered in grease stains and smelling of cheap tobacco. People said he was an addict fresh out of prison, sullen and dangerous. Maya exhaled sharply, trying to compose herself. "You scared the life out of me, Ethan. And how do you know about the cost?" Ethan shrugged, slightly pushing up the brim of his hat to reveal eyes that were deep and unusually sharp compared to his sloppy appearance. "I just overheard the guys in suits talking. But you're right, 30 degrees is a death sentence." Maya hurriedly used her sleeve to wipe away the red ink, panicked. "Forget what you saw. If anyone finds out I graffiti on this, I'll be fired immediately. My mother needs this insurance." Ethan said nothing, just staring at the fading ink mark. His gaze seemed to pierce through her soul, a look of assessment, not of a janitor looking at a clerk, but of a hunter spotting a diamond in the mud. But before Ethan could reply, the shrill ding of the elevator rang out, the doors opened, and Derek Sterling stepped out, accompanied by the scent of expensive cologne so strong it overpowered the moldy smell of the basement. Derek, the creative director, a man with a perfect magazine smile but a rotten soul, the man who once was Maya's fiancé before her father went to prison, and also the man who stole her graduation project to climb to his current position. He wrinkled his nose, his eyes sweeping over Maya and Ethan as if they were two filthy cockroaches needing to be crushed. "What the hell is this?" Derek growled, pointing at the floor where Ethan had just mopped and it hadn't quite dried. "I pay the cleaning company for shiny floors, not for them to be slippery like this. And you," he turned to Maya, his gaze shifting from contempt to cruel mockery. "What are you doing here? Planning to steal petty stationery to sell again? I thought your father's criminal blood taught you how to steal bigger things." Maya clenched her hands into fists, her nails digging painfully into her palms. She wanted to scream in his face that he was the thief, that the chair he was sitting in was built on her sweat and tears. But the image of her mother lying on oxygen in the hospital appeared like a bucket of ice water thrown in her face. She swallowed the bitter lump of anger down her throat, bowed her head, her voice quiet but still retaining a shred of final dignity. "I was just double-checking the parcel list, Mr. Sterling. Apologies for blocking the way." Derek smirked, a dry and cold laugh. "Know your place. Stay away from the drawing stone. Your brain is only fit for sorting trash. You too." He lightly kicked Ethan's water bucket, causing dirty water to splash onto Maya's shoes. "Clean it up, you sewer rats." He turned on his heel and walked away, the sound of expensive Italian leather shoes tapping against the cold concrete floor like a hammer driving nails into their self-esteem. When Derek's back disappeared behind the elevator, the space returned to silence, but it was heavily oppressive. Maya sank down, trying to stop the tears threatening to spill. She didn't cry. She had promised never to cry in front of people like him. Beside her, Ethan quietly bent down, but he didn't wipe the floor. He picked up the scratch paper Maya had crumpled and thrown away earlier, opened it, and smoothed out the creases. On it was her hand drawing, flawless, sharp, and brilliant. The corner of Ethan's mouth lifted in a barely perceptible smile, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. "He was right about one thing," Ethan whispered, his voice no longer holding the indifference of a janitor, but low and full of authority. "This indeed is a place for trash, but sometimes treasure is buried beneath the trash." Maya looked up at him astonished, but Ethan had already turned his back, pushing the cart into the darkness of the hallway, leaving her with a big question and a hunch that the real storm wasn't outside in Chicago, but was starting right here in the basement.
A few days after the fateful encounter in the basement, the atmosphere at Vanguard Skyline suddenly shifted strangely, like the false calm before a tornado strikes. It all began on Monday morning during the monthly all-hands meeting, the kind of pretentious corporate gathering corporate America loves, where leadership stands on a high podium with sleek PowerPoint slides talking about vision and core values, while employees below just wish it would end so they can return to their mounting deadlines. Maya huddled in the corner of the room, clutching a folder tightly, trying to be as invisible as possible amidst a forest of people in black suits and expensive pencil skirts. Derek Sterling stood on stage, groomed and confident like a Hollywood actor, rambling on about a new project called the Rust District Revival. The name sounded catchy, but anyone who had lived in Chicago long enough knew what the Rust District was, an abandoned industrial zone on the city's edge, a literal graveyard with rotting steel mills from the 50s, heavily lead-contaminated soil, and a gathering spot for criminal gangs that even the police were reluctant to patrol. This wasn't a real estate project, it was a liability, a financial black hole that Vanguard Skyline was forced to take on in exchange for tax incentives from the city, and everyone knew that getting involved meant burying one's own career. Derek paused, took a sip of water from a crystal bottle, and then his eyes swept over the crowd like a spotlight searching for prey, before stopping precisely in the corner where Maya was standing. A smirk appeared on his lips, the smile of a cat toying with a mouse before delivering the killing blow. "Naturally," Derek said loudly into the microphone, his tone so fake it was nauseating. "A deeply humanitarian project like this requires special people, people who understand what hardship is. Therefore, instead of assigning it to the senior teams busy making billions for the corporation, I have decided to give this opportunity to a young talent in need of a stage." The entire auditorium fell silent, all eyes turned toward where he was pointing. Maya felt the blood in her body freeze. "Maya Stone," he called her name, clearly pronouncing every syllable. "You will be the lead designer for the Rust District project." Whispers began to rise like a broken beehive. Assigning an urban-scale project to a mailroom clerk? This wasn't a promotion. This was a cruel joke, a public death sentence. But Derek didn't stop there. He continued, his voice full of sarcasm. And since the budget for this project is very limited, you will not have an engineering support team. But don't worry, I have found you a capable partner, someone very good at handling wreckage. He snapped his fingers, and the auditorium doors opened. Ethan walked in. He was still wearing his dark blue janitor uniform, carrying a cardboard box full of rags and glass spray bottles. He looked completely out of place in this upper-class crowd, but the strange thing was his gait held no fear. He walked leisurely, his gaze calm to the point of coldness, as if he were strolling in a park rather than walking into a tiger's den. "Ethan Vance," Derek introduced, deliberately emphasizing the surname Vance, a name shared with the corporation's chairman as a way to publicly humiliate him regarding rumors of the prodigal addict son of the family. "He will be your technical director, a criminal's daughter and an addict fresh out of prison. This is truly a dream team for the slums, isn't it?" The entire auditorium erupted in laughter. Snickering behind hands, looks of pity mixed with contempt were shot at Maya and Ethan like poisoned arrows. Maya felt the ground beneath her feet collapse. He didn't just want to fire her, he wanted to humiliate her, wanted her to resign in shame so he wouldn't have to pay contract severance. She looked at Ethan, expecting an angry or embarrassed reaction, but no, Ethan just stood there, placed the box on the floor gently, and looked up at Derek with an expression so emotionless it was scary, as if he were looking at a naughty child not worth his time. After the meeting, the crowd dispersed quickly, as if avoiding a plague. Maya rushed out of the room, running straight to the loading dock behind the building, the only place without cameras and prying eyes. She leaned her back against the cold brick wall, slid down to the ground and held her head in her hands. Her breathing was ragged, her chest tight with pain. Why? She asked herself, hot tears welling up. Her mother needed $50,000 for heart surgery next month. If she quit now, the insurance would be cut immediately. But how could she design an entire urban area with zero budget and a janitor as an assistant? The heavy iron door groaned open, and Ethan walked over. He didn't come to comfort her. He didn't offer a tissue. He took a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, took a long drag, and blew a puff of white smoke into the gray Chicago sky. "Done crying?" he asked, his tone devoid of sympathy, sounding more like a challenge. Maya looked up sharply, wiped her tears, and shouted angrily, "What do you understand? You have nothing to lose. You are... She was about to say, "You are an addict," but stopped herself. Ethan turned to look at her, the cigarette burning red at the tip of his lips. "A janitor?" he finished for her, smirking slightly. "Right, but at least this janitor knows one thing you don't. Derek just handed us the keys to the kingdom. He's just too stupid to realize it." Maya frowned, confused. "Keys? He just threw us into a trash heap." Ethan stubbed out the cigarette on the sole of his shoe, his eyes suddenly becoming sharp and intensely focused, the look of a general before a battle, not a loser. "The Rust District isn't a trash heap, Maya. It's a giant blank slate. No budget means no oversight. No team means no backstabbers. He thinks we'll drown in that scrap metal, but he forgets that steel is forged in fire." He walked closer to her, extending a calloused hand, not to help her up, but as an offer of equal partnership. "Listen, you draw dreams on paper, and I know how to turn wreckage into foundations. You handle the drawings, I'll handle the trash. We won't just renovate that neighborhood, we will turn it into a weapon to point right back at his throat." Maya stared at Ethan's hand. There was something in his voice, a wild and crazed confidence that soothed the fear inside her, making way for a different feeling, recklessness. She remembered the words her father said before going to prison. "When people close every door, break down the wall and walk through." She stood up, didn't take Ethan's hand, but dusted off her skirt and stood straight, facing him. "I'm not doing this for revenge," she said firmly. "I'm doing this because I'm an architect, and I won't let anyone, including Derek Sterling, turn me into a joke." Ethan nodded, a flash of satisfaction crossing his eyes. "Good," he said abruptly, then turned to pick up his toolbox. "Meet me at Warehouse 4 after work, and bring safety boots. Don't wear high heels to my construction site." He walked away, his figure solitary but solid, leaving her standing there in the bitter cold wind of Chicago. For the first time in years, she felt the blood in her body boiling, not from fear, but because the real war was only just beginning. She had no idea that the man who had just walked away didn't just carry a mop, but in his head he held an entire plan to overthrow the Vanguard Skyline empire, and she was the most critical piece he had been waiting for all along.
If you think the headquarters of the Dream Team, the sarcastic name Derek gave us, is an office with air conditioning and whiteboards, you are sorely mistaken. Our workplace is Warehouse 4, also secretly called the Boneyard by the construction workers, located in the far southern suburbs of Chicago, where the wind from Lake Michigan blows in, sounding like the howling of lost souls. This is where Vanguard Skyline dumps all its surplus materials, failed models, and old equipment they are too lazy to liquidate. Dust lies inches thick. The smell of rusted iron and mold assaults your nose the moment you step in. But for me, right now, this is the final fortress. 3 weeks have passed since that fateful day, and I feel like I'm racing against death on a bicycle with no brakes. Every day I bury my head in technical drawings until 2 a.m., my eyes dark-circled like a panda's, trying to solve an unsolvable problem: how to renovate the sinking foundations of the Rust District with zero budget. Ethan? Oh, he's there too. But in my eyes, during those first few days, his presence only drove me crazier. While I was tearing my hair out over load-bearing structural parameters, Ethan just wandered around the warehouse like a ghost, rummaging through piles of scrap, occasionally tapping on old I-beams and mumbling something I couldn't hear clearly. Sometimes, when I was stressed to the point of wanting to rip the drawings apart, he would appear with a cup of black coffee bought from the cheap gas station up the street, placing it with a clack onto my makeshift desk, which was just an old wooden door resting on 2 paint buckets. "Caffeine up, Miss Architect," he'd say abruptly. "You look like you're about to pass out." I would irritably push the coffee away. "Don't bother me, Ethan. If you can't help with the calculations, please go sweep up over there." He wouldn't get angry, just shrug, pull the brim of his cap lower, and return to his peculiar work, dismantling an old elevator motor. I sighed, thinking to myself how unlucky I was to be burdened with a literal dead weight. Little did I know, that dead weight was silently building a weapon for me. The breaking point came on Thursday night during a pouring rain. I was stuck on the design of the central community building. To save costs, I wanted to reuse the factory's old steel frame, but the problem was the beam span was too large. Without a support column in the middle, the roof would collapse, but adding a column would completely ruin the open space I wanted to create for the neighborhood kids to play in. I had tried every formula, every simulation software, but the result was always a glaring red danger. Helplessness surged, mixing with the worry about my mother's upcoming hospital bills, causing me to break down. I buried my face in the pile of drawings, tears streaming down and blurring the numbers. "I can't do it," I whispered in despair. "Derek was right. I'm just a useless criminal's daughter." Exhaustion washed over me like a black tide, and I fell asleep right there on that cold desk amidst the sound of rain drumming on the tin roof. I don't know how long I slept, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3. When I was startled awake by the bone-chilling cold seeping through the door cracks, the warehouse was strangely quiet. Ethan wasn't there. He must have gone home, I thought with a bit of bitterness. I stretched, intending to pack up and go to the hospital to see my mother, when my eyes fell upon the drawing I had left unfinished. Something was different. Next to my desperate scribbles were new lines, straight, sharp, drawn in red ink. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was dreaming, but no, it was real.
Someone, and here that could only be one someone, had drawn an additional system of diagonal load-bearing cables anchored from the beam apex to the foundation, creating a tensegrity structure that was extremely complex, yet used significantly less material than my plan. Next to the drawing was a grease-stained yellow sticky note on which was written a single line in bold, angular handwriting. "Don't fight gravity. Hang it. Use the steel cables from the old elevator in the corner. Free." My heart pounded. I jumped up, running toward the corner of the warehouse where Ethan had been tinkering for the past few days. There, on the concrete floor, was a miniature model of the roof structure welded from scrap iron and bicycle brake cables. It stood solid, perfectly balanced, even though it looked fragile. I touched the welds. They were smooth and precise, as if made by an industrial robot, not the hands of a trembling alcoholic. My mind raced. To calculate the tension forces of this system, a normal engineer would take a week running computer simulations, yet he did it in a few hours, by hand? I ran back to the desk, flipping through the other drawings. It turned out he hadn't been wandering aimlessly. He had been silently marking the materials in the warehouse. Grade A steel, used for foundation beams. Old tempered glass, recut for south windows. He wasn't cleaning up trash. He was taking inventory. Vanguard Vance wasn't a janitor. He was a genius mind hiding under a rough exterior. Just then, the warehouse door creaked open. Ethan walked in, soaked from the rain, carrying 2 boxes of hot pizza. He paused when he saw me standing stunned next to his scrap metal model. A flash of embarrassment crossed his face, but very quickly it was replaced by his familiar aloofness. "Don't look at me like I just grew a second head," Ethan said, putting the pizza boxes down. "I was hungry, and this place is doing buy one, get one free." I walked closer to him, no longer frowning or disdainful, but with curiosity mixed with admiration. I held up the yellow sticky note. "Tensegrity structure? Where did you learn this? Prison surely doesn't teach advanced material strength, does it?" Ethan avoided my gaze. He took a slice of pizza, taking a big bite to hide his hesitation. "You have a lot of time to read in prison," he replied vaguely. "Plus, I used to work as an assistant for some bridge construction projects. You see enough, you get used to it." "Don't lie, Ethan," my voice trembled, not from anger, but from emotion. "An assistant can't know how to distribute wind loads for a non-linear dome like this? Who exactly are you?" Ethan stopped chewing. He looked at me, a deep look where for the first time I saw no barrier between us. He sighed, a heavy breath, like shedding a 1,000-pound burden. "Who I am doesn't matter, Maya," he said, his voice lowering, sounding like gravel grinding on pavement. "What matters is that I'm like you. I'm a defective product in their eyes, a failure, a disgrace to the family. But you know what? The most beautiful skyscrapers have to have their foundations dug from the mud. Those people up high, they forget the smell of the earth, of real steel. But us, we are right in the heart of it." That sentence felt like a punch straight to my chest, shattering the fake shell of resilience I had tried to build for so long. I looked at the man in front of me, stained janitor clothes, shoes with torn toes, but eyes shining brighter than any neon light in Chicago. For the first time since my father was arrested, I felt I was no longer alone. I no longer had to fight by myself. I took the other slice of pizza, sitting down on the wooden crate opposite him. "All right, assistant," I smiled, a genuine smile. "If you handle this crazy structure, I'll handle the aesthetics to shut up old Derek. But you have to promise one thing." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Never buy that terrible coffee again." Ethan laughed, a deep laugh that echoed through the empty warehouse. That was the moment our alliance was established. No contracts, no formal handshakes, just the smell of pepperoni pizza, the sound of falling rain, and the understanding between 2 people rejected by the world, silently sharpening their blades in the darkness, waiting for the day to step into the light.
Do you know what is scarier than death? In America, it is death accompanied by a medical bill that you know for sure will take you 3 lifetimes to pay off.
2 weeks after we began our underground war in Warehouse 4, cruel reality knocked on my door, not with a gentle tap, but by kicking the door wide open. My mother fainted at home. As the ambulance sirens wailed through the Chicago night, I sat in the back, clutching her ice-cold hand, my mind empty save for the soulless beep-beep of the heart rate monitor. The doctor at St. Luke's Hospital said Mom needed urgent heart valve surgery. $50,000, the finance office staff told me in a monotone voice, as if reading a menu, her eyes never leaving the computer screen. That is the upfront payment because your insurance is the basic package out of network. If you don't have the money, we can only maintain basic life support, no surgery. 50,000. That number danced before my eyes, mocking my helplessness. In my account at that moment, there was a measly $400 left. I collapsed onto the hard plastic bench in the hospital corridor, the smell of antiseptic assaulting my nose and making me want to vomit. I had called everyone, banks, black credit funds, even thought about selling my beat-up car, but it was a drop in the bucket. Just as I was at my most desperate, about to bury my face in my hands and cry, a pair of polished leather shoes appeared in my line of sight. I looked up. It was Derek Sterling. He stood there, in a perfectly tailored Italian suit, holding a Starbucks cup, looking completely out of place in this space that reeked of poverty and sickness. "I heard your mother is ill. I'm very sorry," he said, his tone smooth but his eyes cold, like a vulture that had just caught the scent of a carcass. He didn't sit down. He didn't want his expensive suit to touch the hospital chair. He pulled a thick envelope from his breast pocket and placed it on the seat next to me. "I'm here to offer you a way out, Maya." I looked at the envelope, then at him, wary. "What do you want, Derek?" He smirked, the smile of someone who knows they have the upper hand. "Simple. You sign your resignation letter immediately, and more importantly, you sign over the full authorship rights of the Rust District renovation idea to me. In return," he jutted his chin toward the envelope, "inside is a check for $50,000, plus a generous severance package. You can save your mother, pay off your debts, and go back to being a normal mailroom clerk at any other company. No one will know you failed. A safe life." My hands trembled as I picked up the envelope. It was heavy. Inside was a check with round zeros, $50,000. It wasn't just paper, it was my mother's life. It was liberation from sleepless nights worrying about rent. With just one signature, I would no longer have to fight this hopeless battle. I would lose, yes, but my mother would live. The temptation was so sweet I could almost taste it on the tip of my tongue. Derek watched me, triumph clearly written on his face. He knew the weakness of the poor. It isn't that they lack self-respect, but that they have no choice when their loved ones are in trouble. "Don't be a hero anymore, Stone," he whispered, his voice like a venomous snake. "Your father tried to be a hero, and he died in prison. Do you want your mother to follow him? Sign it. Sell that garbage idea to me, and you'll be free." The mention of my father was like a bucket of boiling water thrown in my face. I remembered my father's eyes through the visitation glass in prison. He had said, "They can take away my freedom, take away my reputation, but they can never take away the truth, unless I voluntarily sell it." I looked at the check, then toward the emergency room doors. My mother was lying there. She had sacrificed her whole life for me to go to school, for me to become an architect, not for me to become a soul seller. If I took this money, I wouldn't just be selling the project. I'd be selling my father's honor, selling my mother's faith. I would become a copy of Derek, just a cheaper version. I took a deep breath. The chill of the hospital air conditioning made my lungs ache, but my mind suddenly became incredibly clear. I stood up, facing Derek. I tore open the envelope and took out the check. For a second, Derek thought I was going to thank him, but no. I tore the check in half, then into quarters. The sound of tearing paper rang out crisply in the quiet corridor. The smile on Derek's face vanished, replaced by utter shock. "Are you crazy? Are you planning to kill your mother?"
"Your money might save her life, Derek," I said, my voice trembling but my eyes looking straight at him, burning with fire. "Your money might save her life, Derek," I said, my voice trembling but my eyes looking straight at him, burning with fire. "But it would kill the daughter she is proud of. I'd rather be poor and clean than rich and dirty like you. Get out and never bring your dirty money near my family." I threw the paper scraps at his chest. They fluttered to the floor like snow. Derek turned purple with rage and humiliation. He pointed a finger at my face. "You will regret this. I will crush you and that damn project." He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving me standing there, my limbs weak, tears welling up from the fear of what I had just done. Did I just refuse my mother's chance to live? Am I an infilial daughter? I buried my head against the wall, sobbing. I didn't know that in a hidden corner of the hallway, right next to the humming vending machine, a man wearing hospital janitor scrubs was standing there, holding a mop but not cleaning. It was Ethan. He had been there for who knows how long, witnessing everything. He looked at the shredded check on the floor, then at my shaking shoulders. No one saw his expression at that moment, but if they had, they would have seen a seismic shift. His eyes no longer held that careless, absent-minded look. They contained respect and an iron determination. He pulled out a phone, a jet-black high-security phone that no janitor could possess. He sent a brief message. "Activate Vance Charity Fund. Transfer $50,000 to St. Luke's. Patient Mary Stone. Sender anonymous. Immediately." He put the phone away, pulled his cap down low, and silently disappeared into the service elevator. I had passed the cruelest test without even knowing it, and from that moment on, I was no longer fighting alone. A giant had awakened to protect me.
If you think modern-day Cinderella fairy tales involve a fairy godmother waving a wand to conjure a Chanel dress in a limousine, you've watched too many Hollywood movies. In real-world Chicago, Cinderella has to catch the L train smelling of urine at 10 p.m., huddled in a thin coat amidst the sub-zero chill, clutching a bid dossier wrapped carefully in 3 layers of plastic bags to protect it from wet snow. Tonight is the annual Vanguard Skyline Gala, held at the prestigious Palmer House Hotel, where a single ticket costs as much as my entire year's salary. I'm not here to dance or drink champagne. I'm here because the deadline to submit the bid for the Rust District project is midnight tonight, and according to the company's ironic rules, it must be submitted directly to the board secretary right at the event. It's a trap. Derek knows I don't have a ticket, don't have a car, and certainly don't have a suitable dress. He wants me to give up, or worse, wants me to appear like an ugly duckling among a flock of swans so he can mock me. But I underestimated his cruelty, and he underestimated my stubbornness. I stood in front of the hotel's giant revolving glass doors, looking at my reflection. The dress I'm wearing isn't designer. It's my mother's old dress from the 90s. I stayed up for 3 straight nights to alter it, undoing every rotten stitch, sewing in fabric from an old curtain to cover the frayed parts. It's dark navy blue, simple, modest, and most importantly, clean. I took a deep breath, reassuring myself. You are an architect, Maya. You are here to submit a design, not to compete in a beauty pageant. I walked in. The warmth of the fireplace and the scent of expensive perfume hit me immediately, a stark contrast to the freezing cold outside. The lobby was magnificent, with giant crystal chandeliers, soft jazz music, and the clinking of glasses. Men in shiny black tuxedos and women in evening gowns worth thousands of dollars were laughing falsely. I bowed my head, hugging the dossier to my chest like a shield, trying to squeeze through the crowd to find the secretary's table. "Oh, look who it is! Isn't it our talented mailroom clerk?" A shrill voice rang out right next to my ear, making me freeze. It was Vanessa, Derek's fiancée, the daughter of a major shareholder. She stood there, dazzling in a bright red silk dress with a daringly deep cut, holding a glass of shimmering red wine. Beside her were Derek and a group of familiar sycophants. The crowd around began to quiet down, curious eyes turning toward me, the lost outsider. Vanessa stepped forward, her eyes sweeping me from toe to toe with undisguised contempt. "What is this?" She used a long, elaborately manicured finger to lightly touch the shoulder of my dress. "Cheap polyester? God, the smell of mothballs is so strong. Did you pull it out of your grandma's closet or buy it at Goodwill?" Giggles erupted around us. My face burned, feeling like thousands of ants were crawling under my skin. "I'm here to submit a dossier, miss." I tried to keep my voice calm. "Please move out of the way." "Submit a dossier?" Derek stepped up, smirking, hands in his pockets. "You know her father built bridges that collapsed, and she's building castles in the sand." The laughter grew louder. I bit my lip hard, tasting the metallic tang of blood. I intended to squeeze past them to continue, but Vanessa suddenly stepped sideways to block my path. "Wait," she said, her voice fake sweet. "I think you need a little color for this boring dress." And before I could react, she tilted the wine glass in her hand. It wasn't an accident, definitely not. The stream of dark red wine poured down onto the chest of my dress, spreading over the navy blue gown like an open wound bleeding out. The cold of the wine soaked through the thin fabric into my skin, but the cold in my heart was far more terrifying. "Oops," Vanessa exclaimed, covering her mouth in mock surprise, her eyes gleaming with cruel delight. "Sorry, my hand was slippery, but it looks less rustic now." The entire room seemed to hold its breath for a second, then laughter broke out, unrestrained. They were laughing at my humiliation, laughing at my poverty cowering amidst their luxury. Someone held up a phone to record. The flashes blinked continuously, blinding me. I stood there, stunned, hot tears welling up mixed with shame. I was a joke. My mother would see this on social media. My father would be ashamed. It was all over. Just as I turned to run away, the lobby doors burst open with a bang. The air in the room suddenly changed. A man walked in. Not a prince in a tuxedo, but a man wearing faded jeans covered in plaster dust, a frayed denim jacket, and bulky safety boots leaving muddy prints on the pristine white marble. It was Ethan. He walked aggressively, shoving aside the arms of two security guards trying to stop him. "Move!" he roared, his voice echoing through the lobby, causing the jazz music to cut out. Everyone was stunned. A janitor daring to barge into a high-class party? Ethan walked straight toward me, not looking at anyone else. He saw the wine stains spreading on my dress, saw my red eyes and trembling shoulders. His eyes darkened, a fury erupting so violently I had never seen before. He ripped off his dusty denim jacket, draped it over my shoulders, covering that humiliating stain. The warmth of the jacket and the familiar smell of labor sweat enveloped me, creating a wall separating me from this toxic world. "You?" I stammered. "Why are you here? They'll arrest you." "Quiet now," Ethan whispered, his voice softening but still full of authority. He squeezed my shoulder gently, then he turned to face Derek and Vanessa. Derek's grimace and covered his nose. "Where is the security? Drag this ragamuffin out. He's polluting the party atmosphere." Ethan didn't flinch. He stepped up right before Derek, so close that Derek had to step back in fear. Ethan was a whole head taller than him. "Listen carefully, Derek," Ethan said, his voice low and enunciating every word. "You can wear a $5,000 suit, drink a $500 bottle of wine, but you're still just a coward hiding behind a woman's skirt. This wine stain can be washed out, but your rotten character and this girl's, no bleach can save that." Vanessa gaped, about to retort, but Ethan had already turned to me, taking the dossier from my hand. "Let's go, Maya. We're submitting this, and we're leaving through the front door." He took my hand, a rough, calloused hand gripping my ice-cold one. He led me through the crowd that parted like water. No one dared to laugh anymore. There was something about Ethan, an overwhelming aura that made these rich people wary. We walked straight to the secretary's table. Ethan slammed the dossier down before the woman who was gaping in astonishment. "Rust District Project. Take it." "Done." He pulled me away, turning our backs to walk out, leaving behind a deathly silence and stunned gazes.
When we stepped through the revolving doors back into the cold Chicago wind, Ethan finally let go of my hand. He looked at me, tucking a messy lock of hair behind my ear, smiling with relief. Sorry for being late. I had to argue with the old guard at the back door. I laughed through my tears, tightening his jacket around me. Tonight, I was humiliated, yes, but I also realized something more important. A prince doesn't need to ride a white horse. Sometimes a prince just needs a pair of mud-stained safety boots and the courage to stand before the whole world to protect you. And tonight, we were not losers. We were warriors who had just declared war.
The lights in the grand auditorium abruptly cut out, leaving only the cold blue light projecting from the massive LED screen behind the stage, creating an atmosphere so solemn it was suffocating. This was the moment of truth, the pitch, the moment that would decide the fate of the Rust District project. Ethan and I stood huddled at the back of the room, hidden in the shadows of the load-bearing columns, looking more like intruders than the authors of the project. I was still wearing Ethan's frayed denim jacket over my wine-stained evening gown, clutching the USB containing our presentation, my heart pounding as if it wanted to burst out of my chest. I was ready. I had prepared my most heartfelt words about the community, about children who needed a playground, not a trash heap. But then, Derek Sterling stepped onto the stage. He looked obnoxiously perfect under the spotlight. A wrinkle-free suit, slicked-back hair, and the confident demeanor of a professional TED Talk speaker. He held a clicker in his hand, smiling at the jury, the true sharks of Chicago real estate. "Ladies and gentlemen," Derek began, his voice warm and persuasive. "Tonight, I don't want to talk about buildings. I want to talk about hope." He clicked the button. The screen behind him lit up, and in that moment, my world collapsed. On the screen was not the Vanguard skyline logo as usual. It was a 3D image of the hanging gardens. It was my design. I froze, the blood draining from my face. Every line, every technical specification, even the 35-degree tilt of the glass dome that Ethan and I had heatedly debated in the warehouse, it all appeared crystal clear. He hadn't just stolen the idea, he had copied my entire original design file. My mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of data. How? I never sent this file to anyone. My computer was always with me. Except yesterday. Yesterday, when I was called to HR to sign the insurance papers for my mom, I left my laptop at my desk for about 20 minutes. He had hacked my machine. Or worse, the friendly IT guy who greeted me every morning was actually his henchman. The feeling of being violated, of being nakedly rummaged through, made me nauseous. It was like someone breaking into your home, stealing your most private diary and reading it aloud to a crowd for entertainment. "I call this design the Phoenix, the Fire Phoenix," Derek rambled on, pacing the stage, gesturing enthusiastically. "Inspired by my own hardship-filled childhood, I realized that poor neighborhoods don't need concrete, they need light. This tensegrity structural system," he pointed to the model Ethan had stayed up all night to weld, "is a symbol of the resilience of the working class. It is fragile but unbreakable." Thunderous applause rang out. The shareholders nodded in approval. Genius! A humanitarian vision. Derek truly is the face of Vanguard. Every word of praise felt like a knife stabbing into my heart. He was using our story, using Ethan's sweat and tears, using my pain to polish his filthy name. He was blatantly stealing credit right in front of my face, and he knew I was there, witnessing it all. He glanced toward the dark corner where I stood, a discreet wink full of provocation. "What are you going to do about it? I'm the boss. You're trash." Anger erupted inside me like a volcano, burning away all fear. I couldn't take it for another second. I didn't care where I was. I didn't care about the consequences. I wanted to rush up there, snatch the microphone, and scream in his face that he was a thief. I wanted to tear down that hypocritical mask. My foot took a step forward, my mouth opened to scream, "Liar!" But then, an iron hand clamped onto my wrist, jerking me back. Strong and decisive. "Don't," a voice whispered in my ear, cold and sharp as a razor blade.
It was Ethan. I turned to look at him, my eyes bloodshot, angry tears spilling over. "Don't you see? He's stealing everything. Let me go. I have to expose him." I struggled, but Ethan's hand was like a vice. He didn't look at me. His eyes were glued to the stage screen where Derek was passionately speaking. Ethan's face right now didn't show explosive anger like mine. Instead, it was terrifyingly still. It was the stillness of the eye of the storm. "Look closely, Maya," Ethan said, his voice low but containing a strange authority I had never heard from a janitor. "He's showing render number 4, the draft where you hadn't finished rendering the foundation, remember?" I paused, looking up at the screen. That was right. It was the near final draft. So what? He still stole it? Ethan smirked. A dangerous half-smile appeared on his grease-smudged face. "It means he doesn't have the final key. He only stole the shell, but he doesn't understand the core." He turned to look at me, his eyes burning but full of calculation. "If you rush up there now, you'll look like a crazy woman jealous of her boss. Security will drag you out in 30 seconds, and tomorrow the press will write that you were a troublemaker. He will win." "So what do? Stand here and applaud him?" I hissed, desperate. Ethan let go of my hand, adjusted the collar of his denim jacket, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small jet-black USB drive, completely different from the one I was holding. He twirled it in his calloused fingers. "No," he whispered. "We wait. A good play needs a climax. He's building a castle on sand, Maya, and He plugged the USB into a hidden technical port behind the column that only industry insiders knew about. "I'm about to create a tsunami." On stage, Derek was preparing to finish his presentation. "And this," he declared loudly, "is my commitment to transparency and honesty." As soon as the words left his mouth, Ethan pressed the enter button on his phone's virtual keyboard. "Enjoy the show, partner." Ethan winked at me, and for the first time tonight, amidst the ultimate injustice, I felt a jolt of electricity run down my spine. Not fear, but excitement, because I realized the man standing next to me didn't just know how to clean floors. He knew how to clean up the trash wearing suits. And the sweetest, most brutal revenge was only just beginning.
The applause for Derek's presentation hadn't completely faded, and the triumphant smile was still plastered on his face like a wax mask, when suddenly, the piercing shriek of microphone feedback tore through the Palmer House ballroom. Screech! Everyone winced and covered their ears. On the giant LED screen behind Derek, the Phoenix design he had just proudly claimed as his own suddenly distorted, glitched, and then cut to black, replaced by a deadly blue screen. The entire audience gasped in astonishment. Derek, panicked, tapped the microphone and turned to yell at the technical staff in the wings. "What the hell is this? Fix it now! Don't make me fire all of you!" But no one answered him, because the screen wasn't broken, it was being commandeered. A line of command code ran across the black screen. "System override, authorized by Vance Prime." And then an image appeared, not a corporate logo, but a high-quality live stream. An elderly man, whose eyes were still as sharp as razors, was sitting in a leather chair inside a hospital room fully equipped with medical machinery. He was breathing oxygen through a nasal cannula, but his regal aura was unmistakable. The entire room held its breath. It was Richard Vance, the legendary chairman of Vanguard Skyline, who rumors said had been in a deep coma for the past 6 months. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," Richard's voice boomed through the surround sound system, hoarse but full of authority. "I apologize for interrupting this fine play, but I just saw a rat trying to gnaw at the foundation of the house I spent 40 years building." Derek went pale, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. He stammered, Chairman, you're awake? This is a misunderstanding." "Silence," Richard shouted, a coughing fit shaking his chest. "I am not dead, Derek, and I have seen enough. I handed temporary control to my son, but it seems you all forgot his existence, or worse, you thought I had discarded him." He paused, his gaze through the screen seeming to pierce the soul of everyone in the room. "Today, I officially resign, and the leadership of Vanguard Skyline at this very moment will be transferred to the new CEO. The only person who has kept their integrity in this shark tank. The spotlight, the light Derek craved, suddenly moved. It swept over the bewildered crowd, passing over expensive suits and sparkling gowns, and then it stopped in the darkest corner of the room, where Ethan and I were standing. The blinding light shone directly on the man in stained work clothes standing next to the girl in the wine-stained dress. Whispers exploded. "What? That janitor? Has the chairman gone senile?" Derek laughed out loud, a panicked and distorted laugh. "Is this a joke? This junkie? Security, drag him out. He hacked the system." Ethan said nothing. He let go of my hand, adjusted the collar of the frayed shirt inside his denim jacket, and began to walk. He didn't walk like a fearful janitor anymore. He took long, steady strides, the sound of his safety boots hitting the marble floor. Thud, 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 creating a terrifying rhythm that drowned out the surrounding noise. The crowd parted automatically, not out of respect, but out of fear of the aura radiating from Ethan. When Ethan stepped onto the stage and stood opposite Derek, the contrast became extreme. On one side was fake glitz, on the other was naked and rough truth. "Get out of the way, trash," Derek hissed through his teeth, moving to shove Ethan off the stage. Ethan simply brushed his hand away lightly, a decisive movement that made Derek stumble and almost fall. He walked to the podium, casually pulled the black USB drive from his pocket and plugged it into Derek's laptop. "You were right about one thing, Derek," Ethan spoke into the microphone, his voice deep and resonant, no longer holding the hoarseness of his days pretending in the warehouse. "This project needs transparency, so let's show everyone what true transparency looks like." On the big screen, the Phoenix design reappeared, but this time Ethan opened another window. Metadata log. "You see," Ethan said, pointing at the screen, "in this digital age, thieves can copy files, but they can never wipe the traces of time. Look at the creation time column. The drawing Derek just presented was created at 9 a.m. yesterday on Maya Stone's computer. But," he pressed another key, another file appeared, identical in image but completely different in data structure. "This is the original file, created at 3:15 a.m. 3 weeks ago. Location, Warehouse 4 internal server. Author, E. Vance." The whole room let out a collective gasp, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out. Numbers don't lie. Derek stood frozen, his face drained of blood. He turned to look at the screen, then at Ethan, his mouth open but unable to utter a word. Ethan turned to look straight at Derek, his eyes no longer holding anger, but the pity of a king looking at a treacherous subject. "Do you like my design, Derek?" Ethan asked, his tone gentle but carrying the weight of 1,000 pounds. "It's a pity you're holding the drawing upside down. This tensegrity system, if built the way you just presented, without the wind load calculations I hid in the 5th layer, the building would collapse in the first storm. You didn't just steal, you planned to kill people." "You're lying!" Derek screamed, lunging to grab the laptop. But this time, 2 large security guards stepped onto the stage. They didn't grab Ethan, they held Derek tight. "And one last thing," Ethan said, taking off his old cap and tossing it on the table, revealing the handsome face and bright eyes he had hidden for so long. "I am not the addict you all fabricated. I am Ethan Vance. I have a master's in structural engineering from MIT and a law degree from Harvard. I spent the last 6 months working as a janitor to see who in this company actually works and who is just a parasite." He looked down at the crowd below, the people who had mocked him and Maya just minutes ago. "And I have my answer." The room was silent, the silence of shame and shock. Vanessa, standing below the stage, dropped her wine glass. The sound of shattered glass rang out dryly, ending her and Derek's fake rain. I stood below, clutching the hem of my dress, tears rolling down my cheeks, not from sadness, but from relief. I looked at the man on the stage, the man who ate cheap pizza with me, mopped dirty floors, and shielded me when the whole world turned its back. He wasn't a prince on a white horse. He was a great architect who had silently redrawn the blueprint of my life, and now he was inviting me to step into it. Ethan looked down, finding me in the crowd. He didn't smile, just nodded slightly. A nod that said, "It's done, partner. We won."
Do you know what the sound of collapse sounds like? It isn't a loud explosion like in action movies. In the lavish ballroom of the Palmer House Hotel tonight, the sound of collapse was the cold click of handcuffs, mixed with the panicked whispers of those who had just applauded a criminal. As soon as the two security guards secured Derek Sterling, the grand doors of the auditorium opened once again. But this time, it wasn't company personnel. It was 4 Chicago police officers from the Economic Crimes Unit, accompanied by an FBI agent in a characteristic blue windbreaker. They weren't here to settle a civil copyright dispute. They were here to execute a sentence that had been delayed for far too long. Derek, who just moments ago stood at the pinnacle of glory, now thrashed like a fish out of water. He screamed, his face turning purple, trying to hold on to the last shreds of authority as a director. "Let me go! Do you know who I am? I'll sue this entire police department. Where is my lawyer?" But Ethan, still standing on the podium, calmly tapped the microphone, the thump-thump echoing like a judge's gavel striking the bench. "Save your breath, Derek," Ethan said, his voice not raised but loud enough for the whole room to hear clearly. "Your lawyer submitted his resignation 5 minutes ago, and you aren't being arrested for stealing my drawings. You are being arrested for financial fraud and bribing officials in the bridge collapse 5 years ago, the case you pinned on Maya Stone's father." The entire auditorium gasped again. The name Stone was mentioned, but this time not with contempt, but with shock. I stood below, clutching Ethan's jacket, tears streaming uncontrollably. My father. Finally, his injustice was washed clean. Ethan hadn't just been silently designing the building. For the past 6 months, he had used his secret clearance to access black servers, recovering the emails Derek thought he had wiped clean. He had done all of that in the shadows, enduring the humiliation of being a janitor, just waiting for this very moment. The FBI agent stepped onto the stage, reading the arrest warrant. "Derek Sterling, you are under arrest for 3 counts of wire fraud, embezzlement of public funds, and fabrication of federal evidence." As the cold handcuffs locked onto Derek's wrists, he collapsed completely. The arrogant facade, the successful businessman demeanor vanished, leaving only a cowardly man trembling. In his desperation, he turned to seek a final salvation, his eyes fixed on Vanessa, who was standing frozen in the front row. "V, help me! Call your father. Tell them this is a mistake. We're getting married, remember?" And this was where the play ended in the cruelest, most pragmatic way typical of the American elite. Vanessa looked at Derek, then at the handcuffs, and finally at Ethan, the corporation's new power figure. She slowly backed away. The beautiful face that had mocked me earlier was now cold as stone. She slid the 5-carat diamond engagement ring off her finger. The ring Derek had boasted was a symbol of eternal love. "Married?" Vanessa laughed dryly, a smile sharp as a knife. "I'm engaged to the director of Vanguard, not a criminal about to do time. My father would never let the family name be associated with someone like you." She threw the ring at Derek. It hit the wooden floor with a clink, rolled, and came to rest at the police officer's feet. "Don't call me. My lawyer will be in touch." She turned on her heel, walking quickly out the door, leaving her fiancé screaming in despair. The crowd in the room, the people who had just been toasting Derek, now recoiled from him as if he carried leprosy. That is the nature of this world. When you are on top, they kiss your feet. When you fall from your horse, they're the first to kick you into the pit. The police escorted Derek down the main aisle, the aisle he intended to walk down in glory. As he passed where I stood, he paused for a second. His bloodshot eyes stared at me, full of hatred, but also full of envy. He looked at my wine-stained dress, then up at Ethan on the stage. He realized that he didn't lose because of talent. He lost because he chose the wrong people to bully. When the doors closed behind Derek, silence engulfed the room. But it was no longer the stifling silence of earlier in the evening. It was the silence of fear and anticipation. All eyes now fixed on Ethan. He still stood there, one hand in the pocket of his faded jeans, the other holding the microphone. He didn't look gloating. He didn't smile triumphantly. He just looked tired. He looked around the auditorium, at the faces looking down to avoid his gaze.
"You know," Ethan said, his voice quiet, breaking the silence, "cleaning a dirty floor is much easier than cleaning this room. I've been sweeping up your trash for the past half year. I know who litters and who bends down to pick it up." He paused, and his eyes found me in the corner of the room. A rare tenderness appeared in the depths of his eyes. "Maya, come up here." I hesitated. My legs felt like lead. I looked at my pathetic state, messy hair, dirty dress. But Ethan didn't wait. He stepped down from the podium, walked straight towards me, and held out his hand. Not a social handshake, but an open hand waiting for trust. "Come here," he repeated. "This project is yours. This stage is yours." I took a deep breath, placing my hand in his. We walked up to the high platform together. As I stood there under the blinding spotlight, looking down at the crowd below, I saw the people who had mocked me now looking at me with awe, even fake admiration. But that didn't matter anymore. I took the microphone Ethan offered. My hand was still shaking, but my voice was not. "This building," I pointed to the tensegrity design glowing on the screen, "is designed to withstand Chicago's biggest storms. It doesn't rely on thick concrete, but on the balance of tension. Just like people, we don't shatter when stretched, we become stronger." I looked straight into the camera lens that was live streaming. "And Derek, if you're watching this, I got our name back." Applause began to ring out. At first, it was scattered, hesitant, coming from the junior staff, people who had also been oppressed by Derek. Then it spread. The major shareholders, the partners, they were forced to applaud along. The applause grew louder, resounding like thunder. But I knew they weren't clapping because they loved me. They were clapping because they feared Ethan's power and because I was standing next to him. But what did it matter? In this cruel world, respect sometimes starts with fear. And tonight, in the midst of that fake applause, my victory was real. A victory that tasted of salty tears, of the bitterness of betrayal, but sweet with justice. Derek's fake empire had collapsed, and on those ashes, Ethan and I, two people once considered trash, were starting to build a new empire.
When the heavy doors of the VIP room on the penthouse floor closed, separating us from the noise and the frenzied camera flashes outside, silence fell like a brick wall. This room was ridiculously luxurious. Thick velvet carpets, a bar stocked with foreign liquor, and floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooking the sparkling lights of Chicago. Ethan walked toward the bar, intending to pour a drink. He looked tired, shoulders slumped, the arrogant demeanor from the stage gone. "Want a drink?" he asked, his voice hoarse, holding a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan whiskey as if it were just a bottle of water. I didn't answer. I walked straight toward him, my high heels striking the wooden floor. Clack, clack, full of anger. Just as Ethan turned around, the glass in his hand not yet raised to his lips, I swung my arm. Smack! A thunderous slap. The sound rang out dryly in the large room, stinging my palm. Ethan didn't dodge. He stood still, head slightly tilted to one side, his cheek turning red. He didn't seem surprised, as if he had been expecting this slap from the moment we stepped off the stage. "What was that for?" he asked, quietly, placing the glass on the table, not angry at all. "Because you are a bastard, Ethan," I hissed, the tears I had held back all evening now spilling over, hot and salty. "You turned me into a puppet in your game. You watched me struggle counting every penny for coffee, watched me cry because I didn't have money for my mother's hospital bills, while you were sitting on this pile of gold. Did you find it amusing? Did you find it entertaining to see this poor girl struggling in the mud?" Ethan sighed, leaning back against the bar, crossing his arms over his chest. "I didn't find it amusing, Maya. I found it necessary." "Necessary?" I laughed bitterly, stepping back, feeling disgusted by the logic of the rich. "Do you know the feeling of standing in front of Derek, almost selling my soul for just $50,000? Do you know how terrified I was? You could have stopped that at any moment. One phone call from you, one snap of your fingers, and it would have been over. But no, you chose silence. You wanted to see how long I could endure, right? What am I to you? An HR test?"
Yes, it was a test. Ethan suddenly raised his voice, losing his composure for the first time. He stepped forward, closing the distance between us, his eyes boring into mine, full of hurt and conflict. Do you think living in my position is easy? Since I was born, everyone who came to me came for this name, Vance. Friends, lovers, partners, they all wanted a piece of my father's fortune. Vanessa, she loved me until the day I pretended to lose everything. I needed to know, Maya. I needed to know if there was anyone in this world who dared to stand by me when I was just a useless janitor. I needed to know if you chose to do the right thing because you are a good person or because you knew I was rich. Well then, congratulations. I wiped my tears, my voice trembling. I chose you, the dirt-poor janitor. Are you satisfied? Now get out of my way. I want to go back to my mother. I don't belong in this ivory tower of yours. I turned my back, intending to rush out the door. I felt deeply betrayed. The trust we built in that dilapidated warehouse, the nights sharing cold pizza, turned out to be just a reality show where he was the director and I was the unwitting contestant. Maya, wait, Ethan called after me. Check your phone. What? Phone. Message from St. Luke's Hospital. Open it. His voice no longer sounded like a command, but a plea. Trembling, I took my phone out of my purse. There was an unread message from the patient management system, sent at 7 p.m., 2 hours before the presentation began, 2 hours before I shone on stage. I opened it. Payment notification. Patient Mary Stone outstanding balance, $0. Payment of $150,000 has been paid in full by the Vance Anonymous Charity Fund. Surgery schedule confirmed for tomorrow morning. The phone almost slipped from my hand. Not the $50,000 deposit, it was $150,000, the entire cost of surgery and recovery. And he had paid it before I stepped onto the stage, before he knew whether we would win or lose. I turned back to look at Ethan. He was still standing there, hands in his pockets, looking embarrassed like a child caught doing a good deed. You paid it before the party started? I asked, my voice breaking. Ethan shrugged, avoiding my gaze, looking out the window. I didn't pay to buy your loyalty, Maya. I paid because your mother deserves to live, and because I knew you would never accept money directly from me. I planned to keep this a secret forever if we failed tonight. He turned back to look at me, his eyes softening. I defeated you about my identity, and I'm sorry, but I never defeated you about the respect I have for you. That slap earlier, I deserved it, but don't leave. Because I might have this whole building, but I don't know how to build it without you. The anger inside me dissolved like soap bubbles, leaving only confusion. He saved my mother, silently, asking for nothing, but my self-respect was still there, screaming that I could not become a Cinderella dependent on a prince. I took a deep breath, wiping away the last tears. I walked closer to Ethan, but this time I stopped at a safe distance, the distance of partners, not lovers. Thank you, I said, my voice calm and steady. Thank you for saving my mother. I will never forget this kindness. But listen, Ethan Vance, I will pay you back that money, every single penny. Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but I raised a hand to stop him. No, hear me out. I will work for you. I will be the design director for the Rust District project, not because I'm the chairman's girlfriend or darling, but because I am good. I want a clear labor contract, a worthy salary, and I will use that salary to pay you back. I don't need charity. I need fairness. Do you understand? Ethan looked at me stunned for a moment. Then the corners of his mouth curled up into a radiant smile, the most genuine smile I had ever seen on him. He stepped forward, not to hug me, but extended his hand. Agreed. 0% interest, repayment term, up to you. Welcome to Vanguard Skyline, Miss Stone. Or should I say, boss? I took his hand, a firm handshake. Outside, Chicago was sleeping peacefully under a blanket of white snow. But in this room, between two people full of hurt and pride, the most important contract of a lifetime had just been signed. Not with ink, but with restored trust, stronger than any steel weld.
They often say a year in Chicago can pass as quickly as a blink of an eye or stretch out like an eternal winter, depending on where you stand, in a warm penthouse or under a windy bridge. Today, exactly 365 days since that fateful night at the Palmer House Hotel, I am standing at the highest point of the Rust District, now renamed the Ironwood Commons. The wind from Lake Michigan still blows strong and biting cold, sneaking into my collar, but this time I am no longer huddled up. I stand tall, hands in the pockets of my camel cashmere coat, breathing in the fresh scent of this neighborhood, no longer the smell of rust and despair, but the aroma of roasted coffee from the bistro on the ground floor, the smell of damp earth from the community hydroponic garden we just inaugurated, and most importantly, the smell of life. This building is unlike anything Vanguard Skyline has ever built before. There are no flashy, soulless glass walls reflecting the egos of billionaires. Instead, there is red brick, recycled steel, and open spaces where slum kids can run and play without being chased away by security. Looking down, I see a group of students studying on the wooden steps next to workers just off their shift, laughing and talking. It is the most vivid blueprint I have ever drawn, and it is more beautiful than any 3D render. "Boss Stone?" a familiar voice rang out behind me, accompanied by the clicking of ice in a plastic cup. I turned around. Ethan was walking toward me, holding 2 large iced coffees from Dunkin' Donuts, a habit he refused to break even after becoming the city's most powerful CEO. He wasn't wearing a suit. He wore a grey turtleneck sweater and jeans, looking much more relaxed and human than the rigid image of a businessman. "Here's your coffee, and here's the good news. Architectural Digest just called. They want to put ironwood on the cover of next month's issue. The headline is, 'When Concrete Breathes.'" I took the coffee, smiling. "And the bad news?" Ethan shrugged, leaning back against the railing, gazing into the distance toward the Chicago skyline, where other skyscrapers were proudly reaching up. "The bad news is the board is still complaining about us dedicating too much space to the free library. They say the profit per square foot is too low." He turned to me, winking, but I told them if they didn't like it, they could just sell their shares to me. That shut them up. We laughed together. Over the past year, Ethan had thoroughly purged Vanguard Skyline. No more wasteful, lavish parties, no more backdoor deals. He turned the company into an efficient yet humane machine, where a good idea from an intern was valued just as much as a director's opinion. I pulled a small white envelope from my bag and handed it to Ethan. He looked at it, then at me, feigning surprise. "Again? I thought we were done with this." "This is the final check," I said, my voice firm but gentle, "plus market interest. My mum has fully recovered. She's even demanding to go to yoga classes. I've paid off all my debt to you, Ethan Vance. From this moment on, I work for you not because of debt, but because I want to." Ethan took the envelope, didn't open it to check, but put it straight into his breast pocket, closest to his heart. "All right, partner, we're square. But you know, that $150,000 investment was the best deal of my life. It bought the loyalty of the best architect in Chicago." He looked at me, his eyes deep and warm, holding no shadow of the past. In that moment, amidst the wind and the afternoon sun, I realized the feeling between us had gone far beyond conventional definitions. It wasn't the sappy, romantic love at first sight. It was camaraderie, absolute respect forged through fire. We were 2 halves of a complete blueprint. He was the solid foundation, I was the soaring dome. "Let's go," Ethan nodded toward the elevator. "The meeting with the new intern group is about to start. Promise you won't scare them to death like last time?" I laughed, following him. When the elevator opened into the ground floor lobby, a chaotic scene met our eyes. A very young intern, face full of freckles, stood frozen in the middle of a puddle of brownish-grey coffee spreading on the pristine white granite floor. He had just spilled an entire tray of lattes meant for clients.
Employees passing by looked at him with annoyance. Some clicked their tongues and shook their heads. The boy was trembling, face pale, limbs clumsy, not knowing what to do, eyes welling with tears. This scene, it was exactly like the first day I met Derek Sterling. The fear of being fired, the humiliation of being seen as clumsy and useless. I saw my past self in the boy's panicked eyes. A department manager stepped forward, opening his mouth to yell, but I was faster. I walked over, my heels clicking a rhythmic, powerful clack, clack that silenced everyone. The intern cringed, waiting for a scolding, but I didn't scold him. I bent down, picked up the soggy paper cups and put them in the trash. Then I pulled tissues from my pocket, gave the boy one, and personally wiped a stain off his shoe. "Calm down, kid," I said, my voice gentle but loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. "It's just coffee, not acid. No one dies from a few drops of latte." The boy looked up at me, eyes wide with astonishment. Director Stone, I'm sorry, I'll clean it up right away. Please don't fire me." I stood up straight, looked at the boy, then around at the employees watching. At Vanguard Skyline, we don't fire people for spilling coffee. We fire people when they see a colleague fall and don't help them up. I turned to the dumbfounded manager. "Call the cleaning crew to help him and reorder the coffee tray. Charge it to my card." I patted the boy's shoulder, who was teary-eyed with relief. "Dry your shoes and go up to the meeting room. I need to hear your ideas for the water park project. Don't let me down." Ethan stood leaning against a nearby marble pillar, observing the whole thing. He didn't intervene, he just smiled, a smile full of pride. As I walked closer to him, he whispered, "You just broke the Ice Queen of the Office rule." "Rules are made to be broken," I winked. "That's what you taught me, remember?" We walked out of the building together, merging into the bustling crowd of Chicago. The sun was setting, dyeing the city a brilliant orange gold. Our story began in a dark basement, from lies and prejudice, but it ended, or rather began a new chapter, in the light of truth and compassion. I realized to build a skyscraper, you need concrete and steel, but to build a human being, you need trust. And that is the greatest blueprint that we, the ones once considered rejects, have left for this world.
Maya and Ethan's story closes, but its resonance reminds us of a classic truth that noisy modern life sometimes makes us forget. Cream always rises to the top. In a society sometimes too obsessed with flashy filters, loud titles, or expensive suits, we easily fall into the trap of prejudice. We look at a janitor and see failure, look at a mistaken past and see a lost cause. But Maya and Ethan proved that human dignity is like the foundation of a skyscraper. It lies deep underground, unseen by anyone, but it is what determines who will stand firm when the storm hits. The biggest lesson here isn't revenge, but the steadfastness of self-respect. When the whole world says you aren't good enough, the sweetest revenge isn't screaming, but quietly honing yourself until your talent becomes too brilliant to be ignored. Don't let the bitterness of others turn you into a bitter person like them. Be like Maya, keeping a pure heart even when standing in the mud. And remember, sometimes heroes don't wear capes, they wear stained protective gear and hold a mop. What do you think? Have you ever been underestimated just because of your appearance or background? And what did you do to prove your true worth? Please share your story in the comments section below, because your story could be the fire that warms someone who wants to give up today. If this story touched your heart, don't hesitate to give it a like and hit subscribe so we can continue to accompany each other in upcoming stories about human kindness and resilience. Thank you for listening. Wishing you a peaceful evening, and remember, no matter how dark the night, the sun always rises the next morning. Keep believing in building your own blueprint. Goodbye, and see you again.